Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Victorious Friday. As I always say, this is a glorious day, and today I have a very special guest for us. It's Thom Schultz, and Thom is a special guest. He's a dear friend as well. And what I like about Thom, he's going to bring some real life experiences as the founder and CEO of Group Publishing. I mean, we've got a solid citizen before us, folks. And so I'm happy to be here. Thom, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Man, it's good to. So talk to me, my friend. How are you doing? How is family with all of this COVID-19 going on? How are you guys surviving here?
Well, we're surviving. We've been homebound here since COVID struck and chased us out of our offices. And Joni, my wife, and I are homebound here. Our adult son is he has his own business in Denver, and he's kind of following the same path. He and his family are also homebound, away from their offices, and we're making the best of it.
Oh, I tell you, we're all trying to, that's for sure. And hopefully this will be all behind us soon, hopefully in a few months. Thom, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about group publishing. Tell us about how was it birthed? I mean, just kind of fill us in. But I tell you, more importantly, the more important thing, tell us about your wife and kids, my friend, and then lead into all the other stuff.
Well, I'll start there with wife and kids. Joni is my wife of wow. Trying to think now how many years? About 35 years,
Now, you got to
36
get that
years.
right now.
Yeah,
35 years. It can't be
no,
35 and 36 or 37. So 35, we're going to
it's
lock in on that.
it's
Yeah.
it's 36,
Okay.
and we have just a relationship based in love and the Lord, and we enjoy life together. We're partners not only in life but in work as well. Joni is our chief creative officer at Group Publishing, and does a great job with that, with her hand in all of our products and services from the creative point of view, and just does a great job with that. Our son, we have one son, and he is in filmmaking, has his own studio in Denver with his wife, who also works with him. So they kind of mirror our relationship and work setup as well. And they recently blessed us with a granddaughter.
Oh,
She's now
congratulations.
she's 3 years old, and just a delight, and we love every minute we get to spend with her as well.
Boy, I tell you, those are the golden years. Now you get to spoil them and send them back home, and
That's
and
that's the way it
they'll have
works. I
all
love it.
that good. Yeah, it's been a blessing. My daughter, as you said, just blessed us with a young one. Although now she's 9 months. She's growing so fast. I turned around yesterday, and now she's walking and
Oh wow.
opening up things and that she's not supposed to. It's a whole way of life. And what's so much fun it is. I can spoil her and send it back. It's so good.
Yep, it's fun.
Yeah. So, Thom, tell me a little bit about group publishing. Tell
Sure.
our audience about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I started the company in 1974, so that's over 45 years ago, and it really came out of seeing a need. I was involved in youth ministry at my church in Colorado, and saw a need back then for help, for resources and ideas and inspiration in the area of youth ministry. And back then there was very little being produced by anybody in the way of resources. So I thought that I might not be the only one who is desperately looking for help. And so, having a bit of a journalism background, I started Group Magazine, which was a magazine for youth ministry, for youth groups. That's basically where the name came from. And from that small, humble little magazine, then grew many other things that wound up serving the needs of the local church. So now we're involved in not only youth ministry, but children's ministry, women's ministry, practically every ministry of the church you can think of. And we do that through books, curriculum, Bible studies, live events, a lot of online presence. Vacation Bible School is a big category that we're involved in. So we're just delighted to be able to continue to serve the needs of the local church that we love.
Yeah, that's good. When you think about publishing then and you think about publishing now, uh, it's a world of difference, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it has changed so much in so many different ways for us. We've got the publisher side of things that I think all publishers have faced in recent years, where how information is transmitted and used by the end user is so different today with the internet and ebooks and everything else with that, as well as the distribution channel where it used to be that people would buy 100% of their books, for instance, from a brick and mortar retailer. Well, that of course has changed so much
Yeah.
to
Oh, yeah.
online retailers and also electronic books and resources and so on. So that world just continues to change, where people get their information, how they get their information. So that has changed so much. And then for us, serving the audience of the local church has changed so much in the past couple of decades. And that it's been, frankly, it's just been breathtaking to me how much change has taken place, and to keep up with that of what the face of the American church especially looks like, and how that's changing, how it will change in the coming years. That's kept us very busy trying to keep up and serve that changing audience.
Tom, from your perspective, I'm sure, because you've had some inside perspective, what do you see the tensions of the church today versus yesterday?
Yeah. Some of it is what I would say are external pressures and external changes, where the church is caught up in being changed by many of those things that affect other like institutions. For instance, the church, as we know it, has been primarily a membership organization. And that whole idea of a membership institution or a membership organization, that has eroded across our culture, where things like service clubs and even things like Boy Scouts and so on, those membership organizations have declined, and so has the church. So there are external pressures like that that are happening. Also, just in terms of how people, again, access information that they want, access inspiration that they want. Uh, People no longer have to go to a church, a brick and mortar church, to receive biblical insight or instruction or inspiration. They can get that in a lot of other different ways. So that's impacted as well. And then on the inside, I think the church uh, is either changing or needs to change with how it views its mission. What is the church? I think uh, the definition that the public has, as well as those inside the church, including leadership of the church, really, if pressed, how they would define the church in reality today is, well, it's actually a weekend event that people come and attend, largely a spectator event. That's what church is. And I think that's now being challenged, and particularly in COVID days, it's being challenged. Is that really what the church is? Is that really what God intended for the church to be? And so that question is now really being brought to the surface, and that's a good question for the church to grapple with, frankly. And I think that's going to cause some reshaping, and I think return to what the original idea, God's original idea for His church, is.
Mm-hmm. And what pressures, Tom, would you say that is put on the publishing industry out there with these changes that's happened, and also there's changes still coming?
Mm-hmm. Well, as I said before, we've got changes not only in how we address people's needs for information and inspiration, but how we get those to them, and that continues to change. And for a business like publishing, it's got some unique challenges. Just
Mhm.
think of when you and I want information on anything, whether it's faith related or anything. If you've got a hobby and you're looking for information on that, if you've got something you need to fix at your house, you want information on that. Whereas before, we might have gone to a publication or the library or a book to find help on that. Where do we go today?
Mhm.
We go first, most of us, to the internet. And we go first with an assumption that I'm going to be able to find the help I need
Yeah.
for free.
Mhm.
And so the whole idea of going to a professional information provider like a publisher, that's being challenged today. So it presents a unique and challenging
Yeah.
factor for us to deal with today in publishing.
Well, Tom, you know, at Victoria's Family, and particularly here on our podcast, Victoria's Friday, we look for kind of those biblical truths and wisdoms, and our whole idea is how do we equip parents to thrive.
Mhm.
And one of the things I'm finding is really, when we probably grew up, there was a methodology that we went through in church. We not only, we went pretty much regularly attended church for the most part, and that has changed significantly, obviously.
Mhm.
The church was also, terms were pretty defined, if you will. Today, you almost have to define the terms. Biblical literacy seems to be much higher today than it's ever been, to my
Mhm.
knowledge. All these things are changing, and it's impacting the home. And in Victoria's Family, our idea is that we certainly believe in the church. We need the church to be healthy and strong because that's where, that text is supposed to be made clear and so forth. But our home seems to be decaying, moral and spiritual decay in the home. How can we see what I call home-centered but church-supported? How can we start to see healthy families return again from where they
Mhm.
are today?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's such an important question. And our research, as well as other people's research, has found that when it comes to spiritual things, when it comes to spiritual maturity, uh, although many in the church have felt that, well, that's really the church's responsibility, and even parents have thought that, well, if I want my kids to have a good spiritual grounding, I'll send them to church, I'll send them to Sunday school, and I will support that. And that's good, but the research shows that the most powerful spiritual impact on a child comes from the home. It comes from parents, for better or worse. That is the most powerful impact. So those of us in the church who want to support that have to understand that that is number one. And the time that we spend uh, in maybe direct ministry to kids and teenagers uh, through church ministries, that's good, but it actually it pales in comparison to what's happening in the home. Again, for better or worse. So
Mhm.
our job from the church perspective is to figure out ways that we can support, nurture, uphold, and fuel what happens with parents and the family in the home.
And, what we're seeing, Tom, is I don't know if you're seeing it. I'd love for you to confirm. Is we can't teach what we don't know.
Mhm.
Parents, I believe I'm an optimist by nature, so I'll take this position. Parents want to do the right thing, they just don't know how
Mhm.
sometimes, and they seem to be relying on everyone else beyond themselves to raise their kids. Every other my kids are now grown, they're out of the house, but we still gather every other Sunday, and we have 5 cell phones going on a conference line, and we do our family devotionals together. We're still in the process of discipleship because we never stop parenting, but we just changed the way we parent. And I just noticed the impact of this postmodern society in the thinking, even in the best of intentions, our kids are being highly influenced by either media, by culture, by what have you, and less influenced by the church.
Mhm.
Seems to be, there was many of articles saying, is the church losing its influence? And I'm hoping not, right? We know that it probably is, but how do we turn that tide? I mean, how do we bring where we see biblical literacy at an all-time low? We see biblical worldview, which is the lens in which we're going to look at something and critically think through something, and we see less attendance in church every week. In fact, here in Atlanta, even one of the Bible Belt cities in the country, within the perimeter of Atlanta Metro, we're seeing around 8% who would attend church on a regular basis.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, man, how do we turn the tide? And I know you've done some amazing things and put out some amazing content. I don't think content's the issue anymore. How do we turn this tide, man?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when you talk about that parents in this case can't teach what they don't know. Um, I think that's not only true, but it's also, I think, a frustration for parents themselves. It is one of the reasons that parents might fear their role as being the faith uh, provokers and the faith carriers to their children, because they step back and they say, well, I'm not a Bible expert. I'm not a theologian. I'm not even what you might consider a Sunday school teacher. I don't know that stuff. And then parents freak out and step away from what they might do otherwise because of that fear. And I guess my message to parents is to see yourself not so much as a teacher. You don't have to be an expert in biblical studies to be able to convey the faith and to shine the love of God to your children. Well, how do you do that? And it's not so much what I think sometimes parents or sometimes church leaders envision. Well, you've got to gather your kids around and let's have a formal Bible study at home. Let's have a formal devotion before a meal or whatever. Those things are good, but they threaten a lot of parents. What is possible for parents, what they can do and what's powerful for parents is to simply incorporate and to make visible their faith in God, their simple childlike faith in God, for their kids to see it. I like to think of one of the most powerful things that parents can do is to allow themselves to be overheard by their kids. If there are two parents in the home, the conversation between the parents is allowed to be overheard, especially when it comes to matters of faith. That there are references to God that are built in that. The parents are able to say things like, you know what, I saw God really step in and help me with this morning. I was angsting over this, and God helped me and stepped in a surprising way. Yeah. That doesn't even have to be told to the kids. It can be overheard by the kids and have a powerful impact on them, so that kids see that their parents' faith is real. It's a part of an everyday thing. It's not an academic exercise. It is a way of life.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good, Thom. That's well put. And as you know, kids, they catch more by what they see than what they're hearing. Yeah. And we've had to model that behavior. You know, one of the things we teach here at Victoria's Family is that we can model it, we can teach it, we can do all those things. But what we want to encourage is also point them to the ultimate teacher, right? Because look, we're human. We're going to get it wrong. We're going to mess it up, right? But he never will. Mm-hmm. And I think, we're teaching our kids, he's the refuge. He's the one that you go to in times. I always say when there's challenges and all of these type of things is who do you go to? Mm-hmm. What do you run to? Mm-hmm. To have those dialogues. Let's go to your home, my friend, and let's say, you've been married to 36 years, I believe. And Man, there's been some good times, some challenging times, some tension times, all those things. Um, how did it work out in the Schultz home, my friend? What were some things that you guys did right, messed all up, did wrong? But yet, the kids were loved on and that sort of thing. Talk to me about the Schultz home and what seemed to work. And man, what was like the biggest thing I should have forgot about before I started, type of thing.
Well, I think we were super blessed in that we each came from great Christian homes. We each loved our parents, and in both of our cases, both parents have passed on now, but uh, we had great Christian parents who brought us up with a love of God, a love of family, and a love also of working together. Our Both sets of our parents happened to work together in their work lives. And that then was a part of our modeling, seeing that happen. And as Joni and I have worked together as well as lived together as husband and wife, we remember that modeling that we got from our parents and saw a way for our work life and our home life to intertwine. I know a lot of people talk about keeping very strict boundaries between work and home, and I know that works for some people, but I think from the upbringing that each of us had, our work life and what we saw modeled with our parents was a blend, and it came together, and there was give and take between home life and work life, and it was a natural flowing kind of thing, always with keeping our priorities straight of our eyes on God and our eyes on one another, our eyes on family, and not allowing that balance to get out of whack. That's the modeling that we had and that we've carried through now. And it's kind of fun now as we take a look down at the generations where our son and daughter-in-law are engaged in the same kind of thing. They're in business together. They own a business together. And that too, they're finding their way through on how to make that balance work for them and have it not provide discord in the relationship, but provide more opportunities for coming together and working things through together, whether it's home life or work life.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, Tom. I believe you don't take you don't put the hat on Sunday and take it off on Monday, and you're
Yeah,
a different person.
yeah,
It's all the same, right? You're to live, be the same where you live, work, play, and worship,
yeah.
and be that person in all cases. Well, my friend, you guys at Group Publishing are working on some amazing material all the time, products and so forth, and projects. And I hear there's an exciting one that's coming out, a book called Eyewitness. And I'm sure there's others, but tell me a little bit about the book Eyewitness and some of the other things you're working on. I mean, it's just really exciting. I have a copy. I'm not releasing it. My granddaughter may try to take it from me. If she influences me enough and give me a cookie or something, I may be persuaded. But we're going to have to fight over it a little bit. Talk to me about that project, my friend, and some other ones that you're working on. But particularly, I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, it's a good story. I think in context with what we've been talking about with family and parenting and kids and so on, because the the roots of this idea for Eyewitness actually came from children. It came from another book that we produced called Friends with God, and it also is a story Bible for children. It took a similar track that Eyewitness has taken, in that the stories in the Bible, the famous stories in the Bible, are told from the perspective of the character. So the Moses story is told from Moses' perspective. Adam and Eve talk about creation, and so on through the Bible. So these first-person accounts are what make, I think, the reading really engaging, and it just pulls you in. And then the artwork in Eyewitness as well as in that previous book of Friends with God, is original artwork, sometimes surprising artwork, to help give a visual presentation that really engages the imagination of what might have happened, how things might have looked back in those days. So the original book of Friends with God was so popular. We had not only families and children who found that book so engaging, but we began to hear from adults who said, I would love to have a book like this told, telling the Bible stories from a first-person perspective and having lush illustrations. I would love to have one that is from the get-go designed for adults. The more we thought about that idea, we thought, that's a great idea. I wonder if that could be done. So we began to look at how that could be done, not only from the text point of view, but from the art point of view. When we began to think about the art, we thought, well, who would we get to commission this artwork that would be original? And we couldn't come up with one name. We said, you know what? Maybe it would be good to have many different eyes on this, many different artists work on this. So we wound up commissioning 16 artists, fine artists from around the world to contribute these illustrations. And that's what happened. And we gave those artists the scripture, the original scriptural text, as well as the new first-person accounts that were written especially for Eyewitness, and asked the artists to read that and come up from their own imagination what comes to mind, how those stories come to life visually. And they came up with some of the most incredible art that just really draws in, I think, both the person who is well initiated and well marinated in the Bible. It draws those people in with fresh new eyes, as well as people who have been maybe intimidated by the Bible, people who have looked at the Bible as too big, too dense, too hard to get into. This book draws those people in and tells them the story of God in a way that is not only intellectually stimulating, but visually stimulating in a very rich way.
Oh, it is an excellent, excellent material. The illustrations, as you said, the art is just phenomenal. It draws you in.
Yeah.
But also, I tell you, the stories themselves are so well told. It just draws you in, as you said, and says, "Man, tell me more." Right?
Yeah.
So I've been going through. There's some favorites that I'm collecting, and I'm just wondering, is there one or two that stuck out to you from the book that kind of drew you in the most and resonated?
Yeah, there are so many.
Yeah.
Especially, I guess personally, I'll give you a couple of examples. One for me was the story of Mary and Martha, which we've heard so many times, but how that was told from Martha's perspective. So it's written from her perspective. That one just drew me in because I have to tell you that my natural inclination is to be a Martha, is to be a doer when it comes to figuring out, well, how do I serve God? How do I be faithful and so on? My first knee-jerk reaction is to be a servant, to be a doer, just like Martha. And to read how things might have looked from her perspective just really drew me in to remember, you know what? Being a friend of God is far more important than being even a servant of God. And that one really struck home with me.
Yeah, that's so
Another
good.
story in here that I'll mention that I'm not sure I would characterize it as a favorite, but as one that really was surprising and one that had an impact on me was the story of Jesus's temptation in the wilderness by Satan. And this story in the book is told from the perspective of Satan. And it reminded me of the presence of evil in our world, the presence and deviousness and slyness of Satan in our world that, I would think of Satan as a biblical account and so on, and I kind of parked Satan there in those stories. But I would tend to forget that this is not just an historical account. This is something that's happening today. Satan is still lurking out there today in devious ways. And I love how this is written in this book of this alluring, tempting essence that Satan is. For instance, I'll read you just a short passage here. It says, I am not evil. No, seriously, hear me out. All I try to do is help people, give them what they really want. If anything, I'm a giver. All I ask in return is a bit of admiration, maybe a tiny piece of your soul. What's so evil about that? That just gave me the creeps, but reminded me this is real and something that I've got to have my antenna up for.
Wow, man, that sounds almost like I'm thinking now like the screw tape letters.
Yeah.
Hey, so tell me how can parents or anyone get this material, get this book? How do they make the connection
Yeah.
here? I want to.
You can find lots of stuff about group at group.com. You can find lots of information about eyewitness at a special site called experienceeyewitness.com, experienceeyewitness.com. And your online retailers as well as brick and mortar retailers have eyewitness, and it's available immediately there for you to order.
All right, so let's go out and get your copies, right? I always say, don't just buy one copy. You have to buy several copies so you can give them away. And this is one material that you want to do that with, right? Because you're going to want to keep yours, right? It's almost like I'm not going to give away my Rembrandt and want it back sometime, right? So I'm going to keep my Rembrandt, but maybe I'll give away a copy. So let's just get a few copies. I always say get 10 because if you got 10 great friends, you just give 10 of those away.
I like that.
And then you keep one. So that's kind of what my philosophy is. Hopefully many people will do that. It's a fantastic book and materials. I think it's more than just a book, though. I think it's really a treasure chest for young and old. Really, I loved it. Thom, we can probably go on for another 3 hours. I'm excited about what you guys are doing. One of the things at Victorious Friday and Victorious Family, we don't necessarily tell parents what to do and how to do it. We just give them a framework to start thinking about it and to be intentional. And so what we also do is recommend, where they can find great materials and based on subjects and topics and issues they're dealing with around the faith. And so we want to continue to strengthen our partnership together. I love what you guys are doing. And more importantly, Thom, I've gotten a little chance to know you, and I just appreciate your heart. It's something that's a kindred spirit that I feel in all of our conversations with you, that it was just a connection, although we haven't known each other very long. But if anything, that you have displayed to me with your kindred heart, and that goes into the love of what you do, which is your business, group publishing. I can tell that's why it's a home run. I mean, that's why you've been around so long. That's why you've been so influential. So thank you for your humility. Thank you for your passion and your love for the church, for the family, and so forth. Now, we always like to leave with a little bit of fun, Thom. So you got to play with me here.
Okay. All right.
There are some things no one knows about you, but a few people do that have typically makes them laugh about Thom. What would be one of those things that's kind of a fun thing to know about Thom that not too many people know that you would like to share with my audience today?
Let's see. Well, some of my interests are probably kind of esoteric, like I'm a scuba diver and a pilot of a small airplane. And probably the most unusual one is that I ride a unicycle.
A unicycle?
Yep.
You're the guy I see around here with the unicycle. Okay, so if I want to do unicycle or I want to go airplane,
yeah,
call Thom.
Or you want to go underwater. I'll
Oh,
take
I
you
want to go
wherever you want
underwater.
to go.
You got them all covered. Well, my friend, it has been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I always like to leave my guests, my special guests, with the last word. So I'm going to give you a minute just to close it out and share what's ever on your heart that comes to mind.
Uh, well, you mentioned humility, which I appreciate from you, and that's one thing that we've talked about a lot in our resources and in our training at group, and that's one thing that I would just like to challenge us all with out there, especially today. We're living in an age where there is so much strife, there is so much disagreement, there is so much division. And one of the teachings that God gives us in abundance is that quest for humility, and that the first may be last, and the last may be first, and that is a quest that I think can use some resurrecting and some lifting up today. That we pursue an attitude of humility. I think that's one of the things that can change our rather acidic atmosphere and culture today.
Well said. I think with that, as he says, it's sufficient. Thank you, Thom. Thank you for your time today. It's been a blessing.
Thank you.